Season of the Wish is mere days away, and that means that it is prime time for some speculating on what next season could possibly be about. We already know that it's called Season of the Wish, obviously. We've already seen a few photos to do with the season, mainly Mara and Ahamkara, and Mara and Ahamkara, but apart from that, we don't know an awful lot, or do we? So that's the question. Now, I have a few things that I want to speculate about before I start getting into my whole idea for what the season will be about. But the first two things of interest are, of course, that we have 2 Ahamkara eggs. 2, you may ask. There's only one in the Athenium, whatever you want to call it. Yes, and that one's uncorrupted. It is a pure Ahamkara egg, really seems like. But back in Season of the Lost, there was a wee area that you get to in the Helm, which went to the Human City, but that's besides the point. That's where Mara was during that season. And that's where Savathun was also captured in her crystallized form. And in that area, you could see, locked behind some bars and stuff, you could see a taken or a corrupted Ahamkara egg. So Mara definitely has one of those. We, of course, destroyed a bunch with the Wishender during Forsaken as a challenge. But it seemed actually quite cruel thinking about it now. But Mara has a corrupted Ahamkara egg, and we now have an uncorrupted Ahamkara egg, so that's quite interesting. Mara is of course going to be involved in this season, so that's something which will be a bit interesting to see, because I'm sure that'll play into it in some capacity. The other thing is that Riven is supposedly coming back. There is alt text for an image on Twitter, which is of course very reliable information, but at the same time, the way they worded it is very unique. So there is a tweet 6 days ago, it was the This Week in Destiny, there's all this sort of stuff, and there was a picture of the big Ahamkara with Marasov just kind of looking at it. I don't know where this area is, I don't really recognize it, but it's clearly Jimmy City. And the alt text, which is for people who, it's like an accessibility feature, so if you're blind, I guess, or hard of sight, you can have it read to you, basically the alt text of an image. So it describes itself as Marasov stands in front of Riven, Riven of 1,000 voices, the last known Ahamkara, her death was your calling. Now I only know about this because I watched Bife's video where he was talking about this stuff a bit, but that's something I thought was very interesting. That this is the same Ahamkara I'm assuming we've seen in the trailer, in a few other images, and even in the key art for this season, for the coming season. It all looks just like what we know an Ahamkara looks like. There was that boss fight in The Witch Queen where we had to fight an image of an Ahamkara, and it looked identical to Riven. But the Ahamkara in these promotional images we've seen for Season of the Wish all look just like Riven, because I mean Ahamkara would. They're all the same race. They can technically shapeshift, so I mean I don't know why they're all the same shape, but sure. Even if one is just hatched, it can shapeshift, so technically it could start off really big, I don't know. It could also be at the end of the season whenever we've let it grow up a lot, who knows. But the image description clearly says that Marasov stands in front of Riven, Riven of 1,000 voices, the last known Ahamkara, her death was your calling. So this isn't just some Twitter, Bungie employee, social media person plopping in this description of, oh yeah, it's clearly it's Riven, it's an Ahamkara, it's Riven, whatever, slap it in there, it's fine. And that, of course, is like the wee snippet from the start of the Last Wish raid. Riven of 1,000 voices, the last known Ahamkara, her death is your calling. They've changed the tense to was. There's some sort of intent here. This means something. I don't know if we're gonna end up with Riven back. There's a possibility that maybe the eggs would allow Riven to be birthed again, or they can be sacrificed to bring her back. Someone pointed out that Riven's heart still exists because we extracted it during the Last Wish at the end, so we still have Riven's heart. Riven was, of course, corrupted by Savathun, although I guess she was corrupted by orcs first, then Savathun, I don't really know. She was corrupted, taken in a certain way. So people were kind of pointing out, perhaps because the heart is now there, maybe Mara's been able to cleanse it in some way, I don't know. Maybe having the 2 eggs that should bring her back, I don't really know. But it looks like Riven's going to be coming back. The other option is that it could be a flashback. It could be a cutscene where we see the past, where something happened, but I don't really know why they would be showing us that. I don't really know what else there is to know about Riven in particular that would affect the present day. But it's very interesting, because I was under the impression we'd be getting a brand new Ahamkara, and maybe we are. Maybe we're going to have two Ahamkaras. One, like, maybe they're going to be pitted against each other in some way. But that's quite a big thing, I think. The other thing, of course, is we don't know what the enemy's going to be for this season. We have no clue. There's been no setup in this current season, Season of the Witch. There's been no setup for next season's enemy. Ziva Arath has been dealt with for the meantime. I imagine she's going to be off the books, off the radar until next year's episode with the Hive, and that'll be her sort of comeback into the story. But for now, I think Ziva Arath's out of the picture. I don't think she's going to have any influence anymore, like prior to the final shape. So who exactly are we going to be? I mean, it's Destiny, you have to be fighting somebody. I mean, it could be the Hive. If it's a Dreaming City, it can still be taken. It can still be the Hive, because they still have presence. So it could still be them, just not necessarily led by anybody in particular. But, you know, the aim of the season is obviously going to be to get through the portal, and that'll be done via some sort of wish. But who the enemy will be, I don't know. If it's Dreaming City, I'd probably safe bet is to say the Taken. But it could also be if Riven comes back, is still bad, and we have to put Enter again. But that would also be really weird. So, yeah. So on to sort of what I think is going to happen, or what I think is quite plausible. So, obviously, our Guardian has deciphered the 15th wish from Savathun's wings in the sort of season finale cutscene by completing the Empire Engine. So that's obviously very interesting. But the other thing that I think is important to sort of point out here is the wishing wall in the Last Wish raid was used by the Techians and Mara and stuff to have greater control over the wishes that they would give to an Ahamkara, because Ahamkaras work very much like genies and the such in, you know, like what you would hear in the old stories and stuff. You wish for something and they manipulate it to make it technically fill your request, but in a really messed up way. So it would be the equivalent of like wishing for $1 million or £1 million or whatever, and you get that much money, but suddenly the value of £1 million changes to being worth £10 of nowadays money, so you're actually getting £10. It could be something like wishing for world hunger to no longer exist, but by solving that, everybody dies. Technically there is no world hunger then, everybody's dead. So it's that sort of thing. So if we go and wish, just blatantly go up to Ahamkara and wish, I want to get through the portal to get to the witness. I want to get through the portal on the Traveller. It could be like, oh yeah, sure. But then have the stipulation that the Traveller will just not exist. Or, you know, I want the witness to just collapse, keel over and die. But in order for that to happen, the Traveller implodes or something, you know, like something like that. Wishing for something that big is going to have a big cost. And that's exactly what is said in the trailer by Riven, I think. Because Bife made a very good point in his video, which I actually hadn't really thought of, that what I noticed is Mara's voice in the teaser trailer sounds off, like it has an effect on it. It's distorted. It wouldn't be like Mara to then laugh after having said something such as, every wish has a cost.
All wishes come at a cost.
It wouldn't be like Mara, it wouldn't be in character for her to laugh after something like that, because she's not evil. Clearly she's not evil. And she's been helping us this entire time. She's had a real personality shift, it seems like, in the recent year. So it would kind of backtrack and all that, backpedal on all of it. So it wouldn't make sense if it's Mara. But who's been known to impersonate Mara, like her voice, and other people's voices in the past? Riven. What effect does it sound like? Exactly how Riven sounds in the raid. So it's Riven. It's got to be. You know, I would have just said it. Maybe it's an Ahamkara, just the Ahamkara we're going to have. But I imagine it's Riven. And that's quite interesting. So, as I was saying, of course, every wish has a cost. And that's the exact point I'm making here, is that you wish for something and the cost is extracted, and the cost is them twisting the wish in a weird way, and that extracts a toll from you. So that's what I'm on about there. So the wishing wall was created in order to have better control over the wishes. So to put constraints around it, to be very specific in what you're wishing for. So that's exactly what the wishing wall is for. Of course, we had preset patterns to put into the wall, and we only had 14 patterns, I believe, to enter during the raid. And that's all fine and dandy. And of course, there was 15th wish in the API. It was never released, never found it. It was never there, never existed. But it's still in the API. And now, there's the whole thing of like, oh, Guardians found a 15th wish. And whilst technically, yeah, I guess it is the 15th wish, it's not necessarily the last wish. Because it's only the 15th wish to us, as far as I'm aware. You can go and wish for other things using the wishing wall. The wish just has to be articulated in a certain way. So my thinking for the season is, of course, we're going to wish to get through the portal. So we're going to have to articulate a wish in a certain way that when entered, it lets us through the portal. And that's what the wish that Savathun created does, I'm assuming. Of course, what we're going to have to make sure it actually it works properly, and it's not going to just make Savathun all mighty and everything play out well for her. If Riven is back, or if a different Ahamkara is back, there's no reason why a different wish can't be created to stop the curse in the Dreaming City, to do other things. That was the whole point of why Mara had an Ahamkara, to wish for things. So if Riven's back, if an Ahamkara in general is back, there's no reason why you can't just make new wishes. But you'd have to articulate it to match up with the wishing wall and to be very specific in what you're wishing for. So that's what I believe. So what I think is the season is going to involve Riven, based off of the alt text of this image, and just because of the voice stand that we hear in the trailer, I think it makes sense that it's Riven. I think we'll also have another Ahamkara. I think we'll have two. We'll have Riven, and then we'll have like a wee baby one. And we might be raising the baby Ahamkara as our own sort of Ahamkara, but Riven will exist, and Riven's going to be back. That's what I'm thinking. We will have to articulate a wish in order to get ourselves through the portal. We already have the one from Savathun, but we'll have to make sure it works fine and everything. I even have a feeling that the one Savathun has wished for, the one that Savathun has created, maybe doesn't actually do what we want it to do. There's a possibility that that wish actually just summons Riven back. So maybe we hatch this new Ahamkara, we make that wish, Riven comes back, cleansed, and that lets us then wish, because maybe like Riven's more powerful than a BB Ahamkara, would make sense. So I think something like that's going to happen. I don't think the wish that we've got from Savathun is going to do what we want it to do, which is get through the portal. I don't think it's going to do that. I think it'd be way too easy. So I think it'll do something different, such as revive Riven. We will then need Riven in order to make a wish powerful enough to get us through the portal, and we're going to spend a large portion of the season making that wish and like articulating that and making the pattern and everything for that. The other thing then, of course, is the Dreaming City is still in a loop. It's still in a 3-week cycle. Of course, Riven is the one who put it in that cycle. If Riven's back, there's no reason why it can be reversed. A different Ahamkara could technically reverse it as well, but that's the whole point. There's a curse in the Dreaming City. This season looks like it will be in the Dreaming City. We've had shots of the Wishing Wall with a Techian standing by it, which means it's a new area. I mean, of course, it's the area from the raid, more than likely, but it's a new instance of the location. We have seen all the promo images have the Dreaming City aesthetic, so it's safe to say it's in the Dreaming City. And of course, where was Riven based? The Dreaming City. So I would say it's very straightforward to just say it's a Dreaming City season. We have all the Ewoken people and everything like that. But my guess is that we will hatch one of the eggs, and it will give us a baby Ahamkara. We're going to sort of raise that Ahamkara over the course of the season in some capacity, but we're going to wish, using Savathun's wish, we're going to input it into the wall, see what it does, and I think it's going to revive Riven. Possibly using the dropped egg from Mara, I don't know, but that's a different thing. I really don't know what's going to go on with those two eggs. I can't even begin to think about how they're going to be used. But generally I think we're going to have a baby Ahamkara that we're going to then make a wish, make Savathun's wish with. Then that wish is going to revive Riven, perhaps, because we need Riven to make a wish as powerful as get through the portal. And then we're going to have to probably battle against Riven in a certain way, because Riven's very, like, tricky. and we're going to have to like create a wish in order for it not to be manipulated too much over the course of this season, and then we'll use that wish and we'll open the portal. That'll be at the very end of the season. I also think that we will end the cycle on the Dreaming City, because it's been such a thing for such a long time. It doesn't really make sense that it will keep going past the final shape. The only issue that I have is how are they going to do that from a gameplay stance? Stopping the cycle in Dreaming City is all fine and whatever, and Forsaken's vaulted effectively. Like, you can't buy Forsaken, you can buy Forsaken pack, and there's still challenges and triumphs to do with Forsaken. But for, you know, all intents and purposes, it's gone. Forsaken's vaulted. So if there's still triumphs and stuff related to the Dreaming City and related to the cycles such as the Ascendant challenges, how exactly do you stop the cycle but keep those gameplay things active? So I think, seems how they haven't actually made an announcement that those triumphs will be going away, and I would imagine they would do that if that was the case, assuming you can still get them, which I haven't actually checked, but assuming that is the case, I would say that they'll probably create something where you can actually choose the instance. Or they will just have every Ascendant challenges available whenever, or they'll just literally have it so as it's still in the same cycle but in a uncorrupted Dreaming City, which I guess would probably make quite a lot of sense. So maybe just keep the cycle in effect, but the location doesn't change, so just keep the gameplay things on a rotator. I guess that would make sense. But generally they shy away from changing anything outside of the season. Whenever the moon had changes to its environment, they weren't reflected. Having said that, the Leviathan did get put into the sky whenever the Leviathan appeared, so that's one thing. But typically they don't affect the wider game within a season. So I would be both shocked and not at all surprised that they stopped the Dreaming City curse, because I think it's the right thing to do, and I think it's the perfect time to do it. But it's Bungie, and from a logistical side, I think they won't do it because they tend to steer away from changing the rest of the game during the season. That's about that. I don't think there's an awful lot else that I wish to speculate on. The enemy type, I'm assuming will just be the same as what's in the Dreaming City, being Taken and Hive and Scorn. So the Witnesses forces, I suppose. They're not going to be led by Ziva Wrath, because Ziva Wrath's out of the picture for now, I reckon. I would go as far to say there's not even going to be a big bad enemy. I think it's just going to be building up the Ahamkaras and getting to that final wish, and that'll be the climax. I don't think we're going to have a big boss. But yeah, so that's about it. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you're looking forward to the next season. If you have any speculation yourself, please let me know in the comments. I'd be very intrigued to hear. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Tuesday. See what this new season's like. But for now, I will say goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.